Hello friends, my name is Glenn. In this happening, I will tell you about Midnight Ride as well as Last Ride. And wait, I will request you before start this podcast, if you are new in my channel, so please subscribe to my channel. Then, let's start what happens last ride with me, dude. The night shift was never my favorite, but it paid a little extra. And when you have bills waiting like hungry wolves at your door, you don't get to choose comfort. My name is Glenn, and for the last 8 years, I've been driving a taxi in the city. Night driving is strange. The same streets you see during the day become completely different after midnight. Shops are closed, lights flicker, and the roads feel like empty veins running through a sleeping body. That night started like any other. It was a cold December night. The city clock had just struck 3 a.m. when I finished dropping off a couple outside a bar downtown. They were laughing loudly, drunk, arguing about something silly. When they slammed the door and staggered away, silence returned to the street. I checked the time on the dashboard, 3:05 a.m. Usually around this hour, rides slow down. Most people are already home, and the few who remain are either drunk or looking for trouble. I considered ending my shift early, but then my taxi radio cracked. A dispatcher's tired voice came through. Cab 62, pickup request near Old Maple Road bus stop. Old Maple Road, I frowned. That area was old, half the streetlights didn't work, and most of the houses were abandoned. I rarely got calls from there. Still, a ride was a ride. I pressed the button. Cab 62 on the way. The drive took about 9 minutes. The city slowly changed as I moved farther from downtown. Bright neon lights faded into dim street lamps. Tall buildings turned into old houses surrounded by crooked trees. By 3 a.m., I reached Old Maple Road. The bus stop sat alone beside a long, empty road. No cars, no people, just a weak streetlight flickering above the rusted metal bench. I slowed the taxi and looked around. For a moment, I thought the ride request was a mistake. Then I saw him, a man standing under the streetlight. He wasn't waving or moving, he just stood there, perfectly still. I pulled the taxi over beside the curb. The man walked slowly toward the back door. Something about the way he moved felt wrong. Not natural exactly, just slow. Too slow. The back door opened. The man sat down. The door closed. But he didn't say anything. Normally, passengers immediately tell you where they want to go. This man didn't. I looked at him in the rear-view mirror. He was sitting upright in the middle of the back seat. His face was pale, not sick pale, more like drained of color. His eyes stared straight ahead, not at me, not at anything, just forward. "Where to?" I asked. Silence. I cleared my throat. "Sir?" Finally, he spoke. His voice was very fearful, quiet and dry, like someone who hadn't spoken in a long time. "Riverside Road." That was about 13 minutes away. "All right," I said, starting the meter. The taxi rolled forward. For the first few minutes, the ride was completely silent. Normally, people talk. Even quiet passengers check their phones, shift in their seat. This man did none of that. He didn't move, not even a little. I checked the rear-view mirror again. He was still sitting exactly the same way, hands resting on his knees, eyes forward. That's when I noticed something strange. The temperature inside the car had dropped. I could see my breath slightly fogging in the air. I looked at the dashboard. The heater was on. I turned it higher. Still cold. A strange chill crept across my arms. I shook it off. Probably just the night air. We passed through an empty intersection. A traffic light blinked yellow above us. I glanced at the mirror again. The man was staring at me directly now. Not blinking, just staring. My fingers tightened slightly on the steering wheel. 6 minutes passed. The road ahead became darker as we approached the river district. Tall trees lined the road, blocking at the moonlight. The streetlights were farther apart here. The taxi headlights cut through the darkness like knives. Then something happened. I looked at the rearview mirror again, and my stomach tightened. The man looked different. At first, I couldn't understand why. Then I realized. He seemed farther away, like he was sitting deeper in the seat, but the seat hadn't moved. I blinked, looked again. He was normal, right where he should be. I exhaled slowly. "Relax, Glenn," I muttered, just like that. Tired. But then, I heard something behind me. A soft whisper. Not words, just a faint breath. I glanced at the mirror. The man's mouth wasn't moving. He was still staring. Another minute passed. Then 2. My nerves were starting to crawl. Something about the silence felt heavy, like the air inside the car had thickened. I checked the mirror again, and my heart skipped. The back seat was empty. I slammed the brakes. The taxi screeched to a stop in the middle of the road. My chest was pounding and my heartbeat very fast. I twisted around in my seat. The back seat was empty, completely empty. My skin prickled. The door hadn't opened. I would have heard it. I know the sound of my taxi doors better than my own house door. Slowly, I looked back at the mirror and nearly screamed. The man was sitting there again, exactly where he had been before, staring at me. My hands began to shake. "What the hell?" I whispered. The man spoke again. His voice sounded closer this time. "Keep driving." My throat felt dry. I swallowed hard and pressed the accelerator. The taxi moved forward again. My eyes kept darting to the mirror. Every few seconds, every time I looked, he looked a little different, fainter, like a reflection fading in fog. His face slowly losing shape, his shoulders becoming transparent. My heart hammered harder. Finally, I forced myself to speak. "Sir, are you all right?" No response. Another minute passed. Then, suddenly, in the mirror, his arm faded. Not quickly, slowly, like smoke dissolving into air. I nearly drove off the road. What the hell is happening? His body kept fading. First the arm, then his chest, then his legs. Within few seconds, only his face remained, floating in the back seat, still staring, still expressionless. Then it vanished, completely. The back seat was empty. I slammed the brakes again.
This time I jumped out of the taxi. My heart was racing like a drum. I opened the back door. Empty. No one there. The seat was cold. Ice cold. I stepped back slowly. My breath was shaking. Then something caught my eye. The taxi meter. It was still running. Destination, Riverside Road. Fare, $15.35. I stared at it, confused. Then my radio cracked again. The dispatcher's voice sounded uneasy. Cab 62, did you complete the pickup? My voice trembled. Yeah, I picked him up. Pause. Then the dispatcher said something that made my blood freeze.
That's impossible. What do you mean? Another pause. Then she said quietly, "That call wasn't a pickup request." My chest tightened. It was a police notice. Silence filled the radio. Then she continued, "A man was killed on Old Maple Road tonight, hit by a car while waiting at the bus stop." I felt my legs weaken. My voice barely came out. "When?" Her answer came like a hammer, and very panic. My eyes slowly moved to the back seat, still empty. And then, the witness said the man was trying to wave down a taxi when it happened. The radio went silent. I stood there on the dark road, staring into my taxi. Then I noticed something that made my heart stop. A wet mark on the seat, like someone had been sitting there. Slowly, the mark began to fade, just like the passenger had. And that was the last night I ever drove a taxi after 3 a.m. Because sometimes, the passengers you pick up aren't trying to reach their destination. They're just trying to finish their last ride. So I am not ready to ride at midnight.